in 2 parts, so it's a very long poem. It's in 2 parts, and it's well, it's about what it is. It's called Allah Mean Everything. Allah. But you could substitute any of them beings you want to. Allah mean everything. Allah mean everything. Before the word, before the slave masters, before the kings, everything. So how can there be God? Since everything is the one, the whole. To understand this is what holiness means. It is the hoarders of the earth who grasp the earth's flowers, like what we had been before climbing the mighty tree, and so could see the sky, could see the sea where we had been, could look down on the ground and declare ourselves finally more than it. Could declare ourselves finally more than it. But they who carried the earth with them like the dead were buried under it. Took dirt with them, even as the women taught the rest of us how to stand up straight and dig the scattered eyes of stars of the other part of our wholeness where surely we would go and be. But the soul was from the sun, and who did not aspire to be again what it is and we are, though unconscious and therefore small, and without the power and burning and endless self of being and coming and becoming, re-being, re-seeing, all toward what we were and when we knew we were, all toward what we were when we knew we were. So those who worshipped what is beneath us, the lowness of this place, which is called terrible and terrifying because humans have not yet come. So those who did not dig the above, did not dig the sun, those who created histories of words which dealt with nothing but the transportation of their appetites, who thought there was nothing after the tree and didn't understand the tree, those who made lies into laws, death into trick endings and mystery, those who created God because they could not be what they wanted was good. Because there is not God, there is good. Between birth and dimension, the wheels of infinity. Death is a choice of ignorance. The zero, the whole for whole, the nothing when there is nothing and nothing cannot be. Because even in your mind, nothing exists as something, a thought. So the place, the tree, the umbrella of our being, when we first rose, began to suppose we were no longer what we had been. The unknown feelings, the biting, the search for only food, and the instant death of what we could not change. They became slave masters and kings and priests and began to rule the world. Character assassinated women as they threw them from the high place of art, the birthplace of what carries a visible soul, the womb, where the crown of sound what is, and the motion into breath under which we come, like the mountains and the sea rolling across the everything. When we dig that's what's going on. When we think that that's what's going on. To be an animal instead, these terrorists of the stomach, the bowels, the genitals, the delusion, the submission to themselves, these accumulators, hoarders, who created the whore of themselves and named it God, who died, which is a lie each time they did. They built the world into a tower. Not the destiny of endless rise with the deep connection to where we've been, so not to go there again. There is walls, the sky barren and empty, think space is a nothing filled with them and what they know. To be an animal and forbid humanity from appearing. This is what's going on. The masters of the earth are the creators of death and pain and loss and ignorance and poverty and disease. Who would want to live in a world full of ignorance and violence and murder? The refusal to turn with on and see the sun and make the soul instead rest upon this place with one leg, a one-eyed jack, right-handed, full of worms. Who would lie about the world's self? The only royalty is reality. The only divinity is the ability to understand the future. There is good and there is evil, but there is no God. And the devil is he who do the evil. But the rulers of the world make themselves rulers, measures, masters of the terror because they want to eat and have expensive doo-doo. The most expensive doo-doo is money. And now they are so sophisticated they have paper doo-doo, which makes them think their heinies are clean. The paper is green. So it means to remind you of the flowers and the sun. They created religion to explain why they rule, and you are a fool. They overthrew women so they can be beasts again and eat and bust their nuts. Who was their mother now an orgasm, and their mother is a mystery they really killed so they could have sex with everything and anything because they were masters, so they could do it cheap and not have to give so much away, not give so much money away, not give so much money away. Yeah, they created money to fertilize the earth with feces, their symbol, which they tell us means create. If we dump upon the ground, which was the soul, upon which their one leg stood, why they removed one wheel from good, creating God, and a will, the inheritance, which turned their blood to liquid waste. There is evil, and there is good, and you will be in pain. The French word for bread, like their word for civilized, is cop, which is why the rulers created the police. Like mercy is their word for thank you, dig that. And please, please, please is what they make us do to live, cop a plea. So dig. The German word for God is Gott, which is what they made of materialism, a worship of the earth, of the disease of powerful ease. The word for good is gut. The stomach is filled with bodies. Don't say these things. A head is dropped through the curtain whispering, don't say these things. The spy of the unis. The dead lie, but a lie exists as such. A lie exists as such. A lie exists as such only because of ignorance. Without ignorance there could be no lies. Why do the Greeks and Romans say liars for music? The strongest material we know is steel. So the grounding of the thieves who make art a thing, not creation itself. The belief in electricity perhaps is the beginning of light. The city is democratic, supposedly, like the lie is okay. If it exists as a flag, a force, a current. When they burn the prophets and change the meaning to money, to surplus, the greed of the owners. What is a slave? A dead life. To rise openly is alive. Yeah. Why is heaven actually having, not haven? Why is God a backward dog? Why is Alibaba the Pope and the 40 thieves his cardinals? difference between sign and sin and without and to connect. Yes, to live, El Camino Real. Why is Santa Claus the devil? Why is Halloween the worship of a tribe of killers? What is the skull and crossbones? Why are privateers and privatization slave ship captains? Why is it called the White House? Why was the obelisk painted white? Why is the pyramid cut off near your mother and the eye disconnected and printed in green? Why is the capital where the capitalists rule? What does measure mean? Why is dub chant and dub poetry English? What does it have to do with Dublin? Why are the Moors and the Moors and the Moors the same? The Gypsies and Egyptians and Gypt the same meaning? The Black Douglas was a ruler of Scotland. When the Anglos killed him, they wrote, "Think on this," under his severed head. Why are the little people the same as the pygmies? Leprechaun means leopard king. Stonehenge is the bridge to the south. Why do the Masons say Allahu Akbar when they get their 33 1/3? 33 1/3 from 360 leaves what? Electrical talk is the same. Resistance, current, ground, what? Why the Indians say, oh, Krishna is blue like monk. And the same word as Christ, cross. To cross from where? To hang why? Why should we believe Peter that Christ returned? Paul was not a disciple. They both went to Rome and got wasted, hung upside down. Why do they have a candy named Peter Paul Mounds? Why is the rock group called Peter, Paul, and Mary? Why is the Trinity about money? Why is God an adulterer? What is Judeo-Christian? Who invented money? Why is money and slaves called the buck? Is a wooden nickel 3/5 of a real one? Why is only a penny brown and got Lincoln on it? Is that why they leave it on the ground? Nero means black. Was he like Stuff Smith? You've been to the mountains. You've been to Cambodia. You've been to Cambodia. Satchmo, whole family is up on the side of the mountains. You've been to Cambodia. Satchmo, whole family, Louis Armstrong. Whole family up on the side of the mountains. Wilber Morris on bass. Herbie Morgan. So, we're going to go to part 2. Allah mean everything. That's trained. Lonnie's lamenting. He's lamenting people's ignorance. What exists insists and resists. It's so tragic not to be human. So ugly to be ruled by animals. Who worships God wants good and is lied to that our pain is created by a mysterious Sky Lord to hide the reality of themselves, the absentee landlords. We submit to a lie, so the devil rules earth. The beast, the beast. The beast, the Bible explains, who did surely rise, smoking from the western sea. The beast was a man. Allah mean everything. On the money is their eye, disconnected and hovering above the abducted pyramid stashed in the Metropolitan Museum. To that eye add their old name, MF. And they are identified as the ultimate owners of money. The hangman given the last meal before revealing he is the limp Peter who lied that Christ had risen. My eye, they say, stopping the rise, the reach for the soul in the middle of the air, where we have been and will go again. Even now we are the same, but that makes no sense to our tiny brain. Cash, they say. But if what are get in it? 1929 again, remember that, in a car, can't go far, come out the mountains looking for food. We say they made some progress, they put caves in the skyscrapers full of dead bodies. It is their self that is money, for whom they pray. A predator, a predator is Neanderthal, not prehistoric, just shy. You should have seen the mighty a minute ago starving in the caves. Answer those questions, I say, out the Caucasus Mountains, across the Black Sea near Georgia somewhere, eat some turkeys, then down to turn itchy. And water roll down their flesh, eat some leaves and lizards. How dreamy to be alone and hungerless, twisting the world into what he needs. The answer to the problem is murder, theft, and greed, till their skin got tawny, the lips a little puffed, their hair got frizzy, nature changed, they talked, there was more to see, different kinds of things. They saw a huge fish in the water, made noise, they would later know as sings, got down, came down, to way there they seen some night people wrapped in colors and bold stones, who carried long poles and feathers on their head, and even though terrified, they kneeled and begged for bread. And the world had changed. They said, pain, pain, pain. The other half of the mask. They could have all they need, but they had not learned how to ask nor to bathe. That's bad, they said. We bad, said we. Nature had put on different clothes everywhere. New eyes for your nose. It is our home, not a forest, but a garden. And the animals, the women taught to be with us, give us milk and honey and clothes and food. No longer must we roam the forest every day for a mouthful of food. We only pay. The wise men said, the more time you spend on seeking food and sustenance, the less time you have to practice being human. The less time you have to develop your mind. So the travelers, the mountain folk, reduced to skin and bones, carried the food everywhere with them and called our homes the Garden of Eden. And we're content except for the eyes which crisscross the abundance and seem to make it disappear. But steel is strong, they said, and to lay flat and do nothing and be fed by they who have no furs is greatness. It is a pile of bones with knots of red flesh sticking off still. The Führer has plenty of furs. He was the leader. The leader has many furs. So that was paradise. Dotted cubes, white cubes, black dots, pips. In the East they call it the Dow. Today it is Dow Jones. The stock market, a bingo game, like religion, a mystery. Everything must remain a mystery in order for evil to rule. The ruler measures. The ruler measures. The ruler measures. It must remain a mystery for a few to rule the many, for the hundreds to rule the billions. Everything is a mystery except you got to go to work so you can remain poor and never understand much. Go through the world and never understand a thing except you got to go to work. Go to church all your life and never understand. It's a fraud, a vicious joke. There is there is good, but not no God. And they who say they know God, they who say they know God, worship the devil. They say brain, so you will think even thought. Good is limited and inside a muscle, not the will of what am you rising. A blackbird with burning short stories, history driving you like a jet fire, shoots out its behind as it leaves the earth, as space becomes time. Endless, endless, yet there is no God, only good. And there is evil. We work as the devil, and who does evil is the only devil. And who does evil is the only devil. But this whole endless amness is goodness, not a God or invisible dictator with an accent. So tell the story of the beast who was a man, came down from the north, snow for eyes, you for food, your blood for drink. Flatness was a symbol, to lay down was kingly, the body of the being to be idle. And so duplicate the stone idol who they worshipped at the time for the God who had a rep but who did not eat or take up much space. No agreement was necessary because it was they God and they cave, and nobody had to make no noise to oppose it, though each indentation had its own incantation, and the sounds from the ground when the mountain things got down and wanted to know where their little replacements came from the thingless things with a cave like our place. But why would the noisy reveres get there in the beginning to come out from the cave like we, which these thingless things make a noise and claim they have created us again, and we who have something cannot make that thing. They pull out of themselves and crying and sucking. For who did not understand got doo-doo in their hand, did not become, and they were struck dumb with filth around them, stinking past their regular bad scent. You must understand which hole inside of which is more and which means less. Then there came the time when they were told they were new, and they were nude, had neither nose nor clothes. But how could you survive in the cold mountains with no clothes or no nose? The furs and strips they had but wore them as mementos of yesterday. They were to keep warm and never from modesty. To wipe the blood and hide the crud, there was no word for polite. They were one family bound by the wizards whose magic brought always a small replacement for themselves. What was left was these two out of thousands who had come down into the desert and onto the great garden where cotton was eaten. But then, the day came. But then the day came when it was no longer the same. They had gotten it, they had eaten, and the world was limited to what they knew, and they knew they didn't know. And what was the twin trees at the center of the hall, which the Lord of their haven said they could not take? So even in the Garden of Eden, there was to be deprivation of what could not be imagined without imagination. It was the thing, the dick that did the harm, so it could exist hanging between their legs and then crawl away and taunt them with what they did not know or understand. If there was a good and an evil, why is it hanging in red on one tree? And if they took the fruit and learned the answer to which they had no question, what would it mean? What would it mean? Except the thing lying on the ground rolled its eyes like citizens of a futuristic state and pretended to read the newspapers and be just. But it always meant a few who could survive in the ice, for that was the objective self in its vision. For good had done nothing, and we changed the prophet's name so it accorded with our having. For having was the real good, the coming again of surplus, addition to what they had. The boss is Sir. the animal who first called himself a scientist, somewhere high in the eastern steppes when he returned from the underworld where our faces are upside down and the flats and sharps of the thoughts they see are sounds that won't let you lay down and burp. The second taste of what we got is steel, the hard art. She held the flesh too close to the flame. What technology gave back from the south, and the steaming meat was easier to eat for the tiny news that came with cries like the daily seeking of pain. What cave? What cave? What cave? What cave? And where is what the prophet gave? They gave a chronicle of how they returned, mostly a recipe for ambush and attack, for the taking to rehab the Garden of Eden so they would eat ever after. And what they would not remember, they lied about. They lie about like the having gotten and the good became gotten. Pain was merely bread, and to be civilized, arranged in a circle of eating was to have a firearm for the warmth, for the sight, for the food, for the fight. Still, the earth was terror. That's why it was so named. And to have it or not to have enough was best to have it all. To save it all, it has gotten it eaten. It has gotten it eaten. The book, 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 the book. The book was to buy the warriors with tales of what did not mean that. With rest and snore and full bellies, and a thing would hold the flag and penetrate, would crawl and lie and create its own world. A scientist of giving and having. We have changed the actual sensuous knowledge of the earth into a slimy, crawling animal, spineless with dialectical tongue. And from this beginning, and from this beginning, and from this beginning, it made words that would be history, and smite the thingless things that though we slid from in her womb, and she is the name of all, still we are the Father, and created her from part of the first home she gave us. We did not understand that what are is was, is. The difference between friend and fiend. And having not the first could remember only the latter, which had to be the claim in evolution, Yaku. But a final encore for the pre-human beings you created to be superior to ourselves by teaching right without reason, logic without treason. And when this would not do, nor had they been socialized to love without that revelation, lo, so we understand, get down. So we understand we have to begin from the beginning, and then dig. The expression and the solution. The truth is the vein of our blood, who is the sensuous recreation of ourselves on that higher ground. They thought geography, traveling, wandering across the earth until the thinker caught them in the desert. A flight from a lower self, he sought the thought from on high was not geography, merely returning north. And the liars turned him white as a flash. Having left that south, he made an idol out of the law, which was to get down the low and the Lord who had to flee for that work of building the skyscraper. For the man god of Upper Egypt was a lie, but somebody else's lie, theirs. And the prophet became a prophet and lead them in a trance across the sand, which was water. With the flood, and being a priest, he knew when the tides would lay, and led the whitening slaves and fattened wanderers still whiter for God had spake, and they were rising with the geography of the beast, north, northeast, until they reached the palace of stone, which they would claim as their own. And the book of maps and days tells the heroic menu of who they slayed. And of their Lord now high again and out of sight, to speak with no amendments except in secret by those who they hired to rewrite history and condemn the peoples they fired. But even the tribal gods got left. If they spoke another accent under their breath, the living gods must be killed, the dead ones rebuilt, and the very sons of their mothers' wombs who were born to free them, they relinquished to their enemies, claiming only the tomb, and the false Peters became their fathers, and the gay anti-Semites their teachers and preachers, the suicided jackasses their bankers, all rushed ahead of them to Rome and put their lives in the great tome they called simply book to hide the fact they had no other, and all in it was stuff they took. If Dahmer kept a diary, it would be a holy book for cannibals. There is good and there is evil. There is good, there is good, and there is evil, but no God. And who worships God worships the devil, who is Santa Claus. Judeo-Christian is neither Jew nor Christian, but a devil worshiper, heavy metal user. Flag is skull and crossbones. Good Friday, the day the prophet Jesus slain. They celebrate so he won't come back again. Why else replace the fish, the mighty whaler with the cross? How they came down in Eastern Kingdom a double cross because they saw him cross again. The people were nailed, spread arms on the cross. Between two thieves, helped up the hill by a Negro, a Buffalo soldier. He way off Broadway. He shaved his head, moved to Chicago. He wears a wig sometimes and rides a motorcycle anemic. The hanged Negro spake aloud from off the cross. He rose his head and cussed out his missing father. And Mamma Mia, where was she? Below the Negro, weeping on her knee, she was told that Peter, the limp betrayer, would return and claim her son had come back, rose again. So she had the body stole away. That's where it is today. The liars and the thieves, who the son had banished, thrown out the temple, charging interest for black studies and various blessings for what the early prophet taking from the prophet who replaced the snake as king was usury. That life itself could be harnessed for fuel. Another lie, that those who have faith are not fools. Go ahead. We're wailing from the island, and staring at the sky was John Coltrane on fire. Fuel was desire, and the vision of the higher did cry out at the return of the last people. Ya, ye, yo, you. Return seems a night a day like the bird, but we was black with a flaming tail of red, did sing as we rose, brought the light, the day, sky, and everything we know. And Jesus was murdered by the state, by the roaming empires of beasts in metal clothes, who worshipped ease and were the creatures and the creators of them, the rule of solitary